I've played and enjoyed a few solid hours of The Outer Worlds, and I thought I'd give my opinions on what I've played so far, as I believe reviews tend to be only useful to curious people who have played the game due to the potential nature for spoiler content, making this more oriented towards people contemplating whether or not the game is worth spending money on. And if you're a bit apprehensive by what it looks like, I don't blame you. That being said, I think this game is definitely worth enjoying. Hopefully though you'll enjoy this video either way, and at the very least find it helpful to some capacity, so here we go. Here are my impressions on The Outer Worlds. I'm sure I need not lay down the no-brainer disclaimer that this is my opinion. If you disagree, then please do let me know down in the comment section. Either way, let's get cracking. First of all, character creation is pretty standard. I tried to make a nice looking character for immersion's sake, but after investing 2 hours into the game and then the game for some reason deleting my save, I got fed up and rushed through it, winding up with a character I can only describe as looking like a war-hardened Nigel Thornberry, and thus I aptly named him so. I've actually had nightmares about Nigel Thornberry, but that's a story for another day. Like I said, it's just your typical character creator. There's nothing really special about it, though if there's one thing that I do find is a bit weird, it's that when it comes to the hair colour section, it goes through all the weird colours before it gets to the normal ones. One of my big concerns going into The Outer Worlds was the dated look in promotional content. Sure, it's pretty traditional first-person open-world RPG made by Obsidian Entertainment in a similar style to Bethesda's Elder Scrolls and Fallout games, which is what was expected considering that Obsidian made Fallout New Vegas. I guess the main difference in this game is it's not relying on the Honda life dunk of game engines, the Creation Engine. Instead, this game utilises the Unreal Engine, which is much less glitchy, albeit it wouldn't be a classic RPG without being absolutely fucked. Fortunately, Obsidian is wise enough to attempt to forego that, but for the sake of being in keeping with the style of game, after 2 hours of playing I turned the game off to get some sleep and came back the next day to find my saves were gone. Comes with the territory, I guess. Either way, that was peak. However, on the whole, I find this game is nowhere near as dated as Bethesda Game Studios RPGs in which this is of a similar model to. Obviously, Obsidian isn't Bethesda Game Studios, they don't even belong to the same parent company. And going in on the merit of Fallout New Vegas, being Obsidian Entertainment's claim to fame was enough to compel me to play the game. On playing the game, I found it wasn't so much visually dated. That being said, it's not the most graphically intense game of recent years. While the visuals aren't bad, they're not the most visually intensive due to the game belonging to a genre in which graphics are not the highest priority by any means. On a visual front, I'd say YouTube's bitrates haven't been kind to it at all, but don't go in expecting a visual masterpiece, because that's just not what the game is trying to be. I think the game's biggest selling point is its immersion. Of course, another thing that comes with the territory of the style of game that The Outer Worlds is. You are the character, which unfortunately for me means I'm now officially Nigel Thornberry. That is of course if Nigel Thornberry did Vietnam. But in similar fashion to the good old Elder Scrolls and Fallout games, the player character has no voice. You create this character, assign perks and all that, and then you interact with characters based on selecting dialogue options and receiving immediate responses, which are full of character in this game, might I add, which adds to the overall charm and helps you invest further. It's a typical you are the protagonist game. It lets you craft what you want to be, giving you useful dialogue options only available if you level up certain skill sets that I find is the case with most games, only becomes available after they're useful. At least that's the case the further you get. That being said, if you play this system right, you can get away with a lot, such as avoiding combat, convincing people to help you very easily, providing assistance on certain things as well, and for using these dialogue choices you get a bit of experience. And of course, if it so suits you, in a situation where you're the third party, you can sort of play both sides. Dialogue has a lot of character and charm, and responses can be equally as rich, really allowing for maximum immersion and fluid conversations even if your protagonist has no voice. The voicing of side characters is decent as well, especially with characters who become a part of your crew. These characters are all unique in their own way, and I personally enjoy trekking about around this unusual universe with their occasional inputs and conversations. Beyond dialogue, immersion is strong in how the world is structured. My best example is the Groundbreaker, a space station colony where as soon as you head through the customs gates you're met by a sprawling space town with bright lights, lovely ambience music and characters to meet. There's plenty of people to talk to and there are plenty of quests to find around every corner. You have your vendors you can buy wares from and sell junk to, and your typical RPG town qualities, and it sure does make me excited to play more. That being said, the atmosphere isn't as potent in all areas, nor should it be. A flux is definitely more realistic than a constant high, but sometimes exploring the small world areas so far it feels a bit too tame. Sure, you have your wildlife and marauders, maybe the occasional robot, but beyond that I haven't so far encountered much that says there's much variety out there. Of course, locations are unique to a degree seen before in the genre, Fallout-esque terminals and quests that take you to locations while telling their own story. Of course, it wouldn't be an RPG without side quests to fill the world, we know they're there. But my point is, so far I don't find myself being distracted by anything that's not a quest in most world areas. And when I say distracted, killing tons and tons of marauders really does not count. It's worthy of note that the Outer World's somewhat parody-like atmosphere doesn't hinder my experience like the parody atmosphere does in most games, because in a lot of games that do this humour thing, the humour is very poorly placed, annoying, and absolutely kills anything that remotely resembles gravitas in the game. So far, The Outer Worlds has handled the humour side of things much nicer and much more subtly than most games I've seen, as while it was promoted fairly heavily in the build-up, so far in the actual game I'd argue it's been rather subtle and more tame, with obvious outstanding moments occurring on an agreeable basis. While I've had a fair few laughs thus far, I can tell you the game doesn't strive to be funny. It just strives to have charm and character in a well-balanced atmosphere that isn't dead and depressing to cancel out the unusual gloomy oppressive nature of the world that they've built. Essentially, what I'm trying to say is the game balances its world out to make it more acceptable. Understanding a bleak future space colony setting doesn't always pan out good on its own. This is why I like the implementation of humour here, where in other less balanced games I find it unfitting and annoying. Moving on, the open world design isn't quite what you'd expect. In games like this, in the past, Fallout New Vegas, The Elder Scrolls, you'd be met by one large open world space and loads of small mini cells that make up interiors and the like, which has undoubtedly, from my experience, been a very technically unstable model, resulting in a lot of technical blips such as crashes to desktop among other undesirable issues while gaming. This game is broken down into smaller and more easily coped with cells that are decent in size on different planets and ships and so on. Also, certain interiors don't require a loading screen to enter, meaning you can open lots of doors and just head inside. That being said, this doesn't apply to all interiors, and you will find yourself staring at loading screens that bring out their own manner of charm fairly often, even still. However, I'm much happier with the open world being broken down into smaller, more manageable chunks, as it does wonders for the technical side of things. As far as glitches are concerned, this game is not the most polished game I've ever played. That being said, it's not bad. However, any game in which you encounter a glitch in which you lose 2 hours of game progress, even though you do save, is, that shouldn't happen, should it? Though considering how few people have actually reported said issue, I'd say that chances of getting it is pretty slim. Every game has bugs and glitches to some capacity on the whole, so that's really not too much of an issue for me. And from what I've seen, these issues are not too invasive. I was just likely unlucky when the game decided that my 2 hours of save files needed to go. In conclusion, I find this game appears to be an example of what Bethesda Game Studios games should be, how they can handle technical issues, how they can handle replacing their train wreck of a game engine, and the like. And in the wake of Bethesda Game Studios' Fallout 76, which I regard as one of the worst games that I have ever suffered playing, this is a good move by Obsidian Entertainment, and I'm honestly excited to play more of this game and see exactly what this genre could be, if Bethesda Game Studios plucked up the courage and dropped the stubbornness. So props to Obsidian Entertainment for this one. The Outer Worlds is proving to be a very fun, enjoyable experience, and I'm having a blast. Anyways, I hope this video has been helpful. Please do remember that this was not a review, this was not even a buying guide, this was just my impressions on the game so far. Hopefully I've delivered them in a nice way that you can actually see or understand, or if you've played the game you can agree with maybe, or Maybe if you disagree with it, please do let me know why. But this video needs to end now as it's officially gone on far, far too long for my liking. So, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Be sure to go ahead, leave a like, subscribe, share the channel with your friends and all that wonderful stuff. I'd really appreciate it. Maybe consider becoming a patron as well over on Patreon. There's a lot of cool extra content over there, but whether or not you think it's worth it is completely up to you. And I will see you all very soon with another video at some point.